I was having a bit of trouble finding out how to do the Slate drum set multi-output in Cubase. Most of the resources I looked at used an older version of Cubase, and I really just started Cubase, so I'm really clumsy at trying to figure out where things are. So this is the most recent version, which is 14. So things are slightly different than some of the resources I saw, so I just want to do a quick video in case it's useful. So pull up the Slate plugin and go to the Mixer tab. And this is version 4. I've looked at version 5 and it looks the same routing-wise, other than the fact that I think you get more channels. So right now everything's going out are just main stereo bus. So if we play the kick and the snare, you can hear those. So I'm going to set the kicks to the second set. And for 4 we have 8 stereo channels and then 8 mono channels. So I'm going to set the kicks to the second set of stereo channels, and then the snare, got the snare top and bottom. I'm going to set those both to 3. So now if we play this, we're still hearing a little bit, but it's actually coming out through the overhead in the room. So I'm just going to ignore these for now. We're not hearing the main signal come out. So we're pretty much done there. So what we need to do next is go into our audio connections view, and in the output tab, we need to add one output for each track we're making. So I'm going to add a bus, and really I'm going to name them the same as the groupings we're in. So kick, and the kick was stereo, so we're going to keep it stereo. And then one for the snare, keep that stereo. And obviously if I was doing the toms and all the cymbals, I just keep going. But for now we have these 2 new outputs. And these device ports, these don't matter at all, so you can ignore all of this. And we are pretty much done there. So now if we go over to our channel settings, and this is the part that tripped me up a little because this section looks a little different than previous versions. So previous versions have this little, the select the multi-out instrument. I think it had the icon over here, so it took me a while to just hunt that down. So make sure you're selected on the drum set, and then we're gonna select the multi-out here. So here we want to enable any tracks that we're adding. So again, I'm just adding 2, so we're going to enable 2. If you're adding the whole kit, you'd have a lot more. I'm going to enable the stereo pair, and it's going every other number because they are stereo pairs. Up here, once it gets to mono, the numbers just go sequentially. 3 and 5, that looks good. That's all we're going to do for now for the kick and the snare. And so now we can go back to our mixer, and we can see that 3 and the 5 is added. And of course those aren't good names, so we want to add kick and snare. And we are going to route the outputs to the audio connections that we made previously. So here under output routing on your kick channel, select kick, output on your snare channel, select snare. All right, we're pretty much done there. And so now we're going to go back here. We need 2 audio tracks, one for each instrument that we just did, the kick and the snare. So now I'm going to add a stereo channel named kick, and I have a drum set mix group that I'm routing these to. So kick stereo track, add that, and then we're going to add one more. Same thing, stereo, call this snare. All right, and the last thing we're going to do, go to those new channels we just made and set the routing to not stereo in, but those outputs that we made earlier. So the kick output is now the input of your kick track. The snare is input of the snare track. So these are the instrument tracks we made, and we're routing those to the actual audio tracks. So now if we go back here, the last step in the process is just to make sure your monitor input is selected. If we don't have this on, we're not going to hear the audio coming through these tracks. Now if we select our Slate track, so now we can see the signal, and we're getting kick in that track and snare in that track. And yeah, maybe there's a faster way, but that's what I figured out, and it wasn't too painful once I got it all down. All right, hope that's helpful.